Now, I get this sensation, which is really important for us to talk about, right? Which is all three options are still on the table, right? There can be a Harris blowout. There can be a Trump blowout. And, of course, it can be 50-50. And that's because it doesn't matter whether you win the state by 5 votes or 5 million votes. And if you start to put them all together, the past 24 hours, let's explain to everyone at home the kind of Trump team freak out, those of us that are trying to read the numbers, thinking it's going one way, and then seeing little moments that start to fling a lot of people the other way. Do you think that things are bouncing around that dramatically in the final days, or is that just people hyping up before the Super Bowl?
I think it's a lot of hype before the Super Bowl. I honestly think, Paul, the idea that there's a lot of people right now who are getting to the ballot box and deciding on the day which way they're going to go. I just don't think there's a lot of that, because I think most people, both figures are so utterly polarizing. It's very hard not to have an opinion about it. It's not like we've got two milquetoast candidates here, Paul, and we don't really, they're a bit the same. I don't know, kind of uniparty, a bit of this, a bit of that, They're both really polarizing, and so all of their support is going to be, most of their support is going to be baked in already. There will be people who will be going up, and, we're leaning one way who may slip the other way because I just don't know if I can stand this or that or the other thing. And I think Trump may be hurt by some of that with the real, and I mean, you don't know the level of media hysteria here. You see some of it reflected back, through the ABC and the Herald and all of those sorts of, operations that are just, in an absolute, lather about the idea that Trump could become president. And it's almost like they're telling Australians not to vote for him. But it's, here the media frenzy is in an absolute full tilt. A couple of people that we've spoken to just on the street already, just been in Raleigh a couple hours, I think people are pretty weary of it. Every radio station you hear, every TV that's playing, is just nothing but political ads wall to wall. So I think people are really also looking for a bit of respite, too.
Yeah, 100%. All right. You also had the chance to go and have a look at the border. You've been able to see the stories. This really is a massive issue. It is right up there as a very key issue for men. It's one of the absolute drivers behind what's happening with Trump. And we need to make it really clear that there are deadly consequences in and around all of this stuff, where some people that have come across that border, the millions of people, are really bad dudes, right? Let's be honest. They have committed some horrendous crimes. What's it like to go to a border town?
Well, it's really fascinating because, you talk to the people, you see, the debris, and you see the refuse that's been left, by this crisis. But what's also interesting is how all of the politicians and the locals are so cynical because, just in the last couple of months, the Biden administration, the Harris-Biden administration, has turned down the spigot of migrants with their policies, coming up to the election because they didn't want this to be an issue anymore. So they're like, well, if you can do it then, why couldn't you do it from the start? So there's a huge amount of cynicism. There's a huge amount of cynicism that if Harris and Biden, or if Harris wins and is the next president, the next step will be to give some sort of amnesty and eventually give citizenship to some of these many millions who have come through, many of them landing, in swing states to try and turn them permanently Democratic. There's a lot of cynicism about that. But, as you say, too, on the bad dudes factor, there are so many horrendous stories. Just a couple of weeks ago, before we all came over here, there was a horrible case where a guy who came in illegally through the border in San Diego, where I was, winds up in Chicago. Now, he winds up allegedly shooting an Orthodox Jewish man on his way to temple and gets into a firefight, allegedly, with cops in which he's screaming Allahu Akbar for 2.5 minutes before he's finally taken down and arrested. So,
wow.
This is just one of the many stories of how our streets are being made less safe in America. And there's all the other stories you hear about, obviously the horrendous, cases of sexual assault and crime and, apartment buildings being taken over in Colorado and so on and so forth. I mean, it's just, it is a real impactful story.
I'm with you, James. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you all day, all night, all the time.